Wednesday night, so if you do Wednesday this week, it's perfect for me.
Okay, let's begin.
Where are we up to?
We are up to the third chapter, Eluhen Halokim. What does Eluhen Halokim mean? Means up until now we read Eluhen Hagolim. Eluhen Hagolim means these are the people that get exiled, and we described how they get exiled, when they get exiled, how long do they get exiled for, what does the city comprise of that they get exiled to. We did a lot of the details of Galut that take place when a person makes a mistake. Now remember, what's the name of the Masechet?
Makkot.
Makkot. What does Makkot mean? Ashes. So we've been waiting. Where have you been all my life, Elohin Elokim? This is literally what we've been heading for from the beginning. So now let's just give you a recap. They've done an amazing job in the introduction. I just want to run through it very, very quickly because I don't think we need the level of detail that they take us through in the intro to this, okay? But it goes like this. We know that if a person is commanded to do mitzvot, there are ramifications for the commandments, both positive and negative. So when a person does the right thing, they're rewarded. When they do the wrong thing, they're punished. But the different types of punishment that exist for a person doing the wrong thing, right? They could range from something that's administered by Beit Din to something that's administered by God. The punishments that God gives are not relevant to this chapter. Really what we're talking about over here is Malkut, which means lashes administered by the Beit Din. Okay? So are there going to be other punishments? Absolutely. But are those other punishments given by Beit Din? That's the question. So what kind of things could a person do wrong in the eyes of the Torah? One thing they could do wrong is a positive command. Let's say as an example, there's a mitzvah to give 10%. There's a mitzvah to give the firstborn of your cow to the poor. There's a mitzvah to sit in the sukkah. What happens if I don't do one of these positive mitzvot? So there's one kind of a punishment, and that punishment is not administered by Beit Din. Okay? HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes care of that. Now there's negative commandments. Lo ta'aseh. Okay? Lo ta'aseh says don't do. What's the difference between a positive commandment and a negative commandment? Simply the manner in which the Torah expressed it. So in other words, get a Brit Milah tells you positive. Then the Torah might say, don't let yourself remain uncircumcised. Negative. So it's not that the commandment itself is either positive or negative. Any commandment could be phrased in the positive or in the negative. How the Torah told you to do the item might be the difference between if it's a positive or negative commandment. There are many mitzvot that the mitzvah itself has both a positive and a negative. Yeah.
Keep Shabbat and don't break the Shabbat.
Excellent.
This is the same idea that we read in Kippur.
Yes. All the mitzvot that you're talking about there. The positives and the negatives, we say vidui on them. That's the positive and negative commandments.
So Shabbat is 2 of the 613?
Yes, more than 2.
Because it's a yes and then
More than 2.
Oh, wow.
Because it says shamor and it says zachor. But then it also says lo tevaru esh. And it also says that you shouldn't go out of your techum. And it also says, and it also says, and it also says. Okay? So, there are 248 positive commandments. Ramach, right? Which stands for 248. The second thing is, there's 365, shin samachay, 365 negative commandments. Alright? So, 365, 248 equals 613. Okay. So, in each one of these mitzvot, there's going to be a specific kind of punishment. And the question is, which kind of punishment is going to be administered for each one of those punishments? So you could have death that comes from Shamayim. You could have death that comes from Beit Din. You could have, you want to maybe mute the microphone, guys, unless you're asking a question. The second thing is, as an example, a person might get karet from Shamayim. What is karet? Karet means cut off. But isn't that the same as mitabi de shamayim, death from heaven?
No.
What's the difference?
When is your life gets cut short?
So mitabi de shamayim is death, and karet is death.
No, if your life gets cut short.
Excellent. So karet is number 1 earlier.
Right.
Okay. There's actually a lot of people who have a karet party. What's a karet party? Yeah,
It's a little weird.
that's a little weird. I feel like the rabbis get angry at that, no?
That button down.
What kind of parties are these?
Thank you.
Karet party is when a person lives longer than 50 years.
Oh my God.
Why? Because karet is a person dies before 50. So when you've lived 50 years, you know that you did not receive karet.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
My father died at 51. From 46 to 51, I was a mess. Because the mysteries always died younger, Bella Teshbih.
Well, Tashbih.
So when I turned 51, I thanked Hashem.
That's
I
this.
should have made
That's
a
a
party.
correct. You should
That's
have
this.
a party.
That's deep.
By the way, a party delayed is just a party delayed.
There you
I'm
go.
gonna do something at the Bible. So I do some in my apartment.
Are you Kohanim?
No.
Kohanim, I asked.
Oh,
Because we mentioned this many times, that's the Towel family.
yeah.
Tawil Me'Eliah Kohen. Why do they say that? Because there was a curse on the house of Eliah Kohen that they should die young. So Tawil means long life.
Tawil means tall.
They
But
named them that. It's length.
First.
Wow.
They named them that to counteract
Tawil.
the shorter. That's the whole point of it.
I already got a shout out last time.
Yeah. No, we have it many times because it comes up a lot.
Coffee's fantastic.
Fantastic, by the
Do
way.
you want to know what it is?
I know. I'm the only one who knows.
Can you please tell us?
I'm the only one who knows.
You know.
I don't think ruin it. I don't think so. I don't know.
Don't condemn
I feel like, but you know what? Nobody here is a fine schmecker. You know what that means?
Yeah.
Not one person here is a fine schmecker. I think you could reveal the great reveal.
I just got.
Fine schmecker is someone who smells only the finest things.
I could buy good, I could buy bad. My housekeeper just burns all my coffee.
Get the electric percolator.
I had a percolator.
You can't go wrong. You can't go
It does
wrong.
it automatically, yeah. That's why this is so good, the electric percolator.
By the way, this class now has a theme song. No, I was bowling one night in Bradley Bowl on Saturday night. First mistake.
Packed.
Everyone is there
Yeah.
from of African descent, okay? And it's just everyone there and me, the rabbi's kids. Anyway, this music comes on. Everyone starts dancing, and I'm listening to the words of the song. Do you know what the words of the song were?
Cursing?
No. What are the words? It is time for the percolator. It is time for the percolator. It is time for the percolator. Building. Those are the words. It is time for the percolator. Time for the percolator. I'm ready for the drop. It is time for the percolator. That was it. The song was about a kitchen appliance. Okay. So, Ray, I'm going to say only 4 words to you.
Yes.
It is time
For the percolator.
for the percolator.
I'm gonna buy you one.
5 words, Mechila. No, but they say it is time, so it's 4 words. Okay, so let's go. So, the karet is one punishment. Now, one opinion is the reason why karet is different than mitah b'dei shamayim is because karet is early. Mitah b'dei shamayim is a person dies a heavenly death, whatever that is. Karet is before a certain period of time, dies young. Another opinion is karet bar minan 1,000 times means not only the person's death, but the death also of that person's children. It's like karet literally comes from the word to cut off. So how do you cut off a person? Not only does he pass away, all of his children die with him. So there's no remnant. That's karet. So not only him and his children. The third difference between karet is the Gemara has a derasha. Hakaret, tikaret, double lashon. Hakaret in this world, tikaret in the next world. That means that the soul is not only cut off from life here, it's cut off from all existence. The soul ceases to exist. It's a worse punishment than Gehinam. That's karet, okay? So that's another difference between karet and mitah b'dei shamayim. Okay, now that we've expressed, the next punishment, as we said, is Makkot, is getting lashes, okay? Now, let's just talk, we're going to go through the categories that they bring for us in the introduction to the chapter over here on the different kinds of prohibitions. So let's go as an example. The first one is a lav she'en bo ma'aseh. What is a lav she'en bo ma'aseh? Let's say the Torah says to do something, don't do this. But the transgression of not doing it doesn't involve any sort of action.
Okay.
So I'll give you, what's an example of lav she'en bo maaseh?
There's one in here. Having chametz in the house during Passover.
So all of a sudden, Pesach comes in, I have my whiskey collection, I didn't sell it. Now what? Now I have chametz on Pesach. What did I do in order to commit that negative commandment? Nothing. No action was required in that scenario. So the only time we're going to see, opinion will say, machloket, you could get lashes is, did you do an action in order to transgress the negative commandment?
But if you knowingly left it, that's an action. If you knowingly
No, it's not an action, it's a lack of an action.
lack of an action.
The action
Which
would have
is
been
punishable.
to get rid of it.
Right.
But I just didn't do anything. Okay? And that in and of itself is enough to commit the lav. That's a lav she'en bo maaseh. Another example, according to most opinions, of a lav she'en bo maaseh. Let's say I speak lashon hara. I didn't punch the guy. I just said something. So the Gemara asks a question: is akimat sefatayim, which means the bending of lips,
It's not passive.
is that it's not passive, but it's not an action, it's speech. So that's a question, okay? That's a machloket, and you're exactly identifying the difference between it. One opinion is saying, lav she'en bo maaseh means you did nothing. You were inactive completely passive. Other opinion says, no, it requires an actual action. The next one is, lav shenitak la'aseh. Torah tells you if you steal something, what's your recourse after you stole something? Veheshivet hagezela asher gazal. You return the object that you stole. So when the Torah tells you that when you did this wrong thing, here's how you fix it. So the fix is not lashes. The fix is what the Torah told you to do. That's a lav nitak la'aseh, attached to a positive commandment. Just because we're saying these things doesn't mean that everyone holds that you don't get lashes, but these are going to be the different types of terminology we're going to come across. The next one is lav shenitan la'azarat mitat bedin. There's a isur, and the punishment for the isur is to die. But it doesn't mean that you're gonna die. It means that the punishment for it is death. Because there'll be times when you won't fulfill the criteria for death, but still that is the given punishment for said lav. Okay, having that background, let us begin the Mishnah. The Mishnah says as follows, we are on page Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, 13a4. Elu hen alukin. These are the ones that get Malkut. Rashi tells us immediately, Elu lav dafka. It's not telling you these to the exclusion of all others. Elu lav dafka. Ditana vishayar, which means the Mishnah told us something, vishayar, and it left over. Lokin tuva, many different cases of lashes. Ela tana hayave kiritut. Rather, it said those that are obligated that get karet lashmuina, to teach us the yesh malkut b'chayave kiritut, that if you're supposed to get karet, still you could receive lashes as well as the fact that you're supposed to get karet. Okay, so we're going to see Rashi is telling us effectively that we listed, there's many different cases of malkut. In fact, over 200 cases of malkut in the Torah that you would get the lashes for. Okay? Mm-hmm. However, we're not going through all of them. What we're doing over here is we're teaching you, here are the ones that will surprise you. For one reason or another. The first reason, why would it surprise you if you get kiritut, if you hayav karet, and still you get malkut, you still get lashes?
Because this is it.
Because you think the guy should be killed.
If then that,
So therefore,
it's automatically
There's
inclusive
no
of it.
malkut.
what's that called
When are
in
you gonna
law?
kill him? Double jeopardy.
Double jeopardy, no double jeopardy. You can't hit me and hit me. What's that called in the language of the Torah? So close.
If
Kam le bidraba mine. You get him on the bigger one. So I remember once I was teaching this concept, kam le bidraba mine. Someone said, Rabbi, I don't understand it. Could you give us something that we understand? What's kam le bidraba mine? I said, it's like when you go into the store and you buy an object that says 50% off second object. How do they choose which one to charge you for?
more expensive.
Charge you for the more expensive one. That's kam le bidraba mine. We charge you for the more expensive one. Whichever one.
He steals something and he kills something.
Yes.
And he kills somebody. You're not punishing him for stealing.
You killed the guy, you shot him. You both killed him, and
He
you,
stole his wallet.
and you made a hole in his shirt. So you owe his Yorshim. Do I have to pay for the shirt now and also get the death penalty? So the opinion of the Gemara of that we always talk about is kam lebet Ravamine. So over here, one might have thought, if I'm getting karet, so that's my punishment. You don't gotta whip me too, okay? So that's why it's a chidush. We're gonna see other chidushim as well that will be present in each of the cases of why we mention these specific ones.
But would the guy say, I'd rather you just,
It's not up to him. It's not, no, for sure. For sure, it's not up to him. He's not a manda amar in the punishment. Exactly. Take the lashes. These are the ones that get lashes. Someone who has relations with his own sister. That's isur karet. Okay? Perversion. And someone who has a relationship with achot aviv, with the sister of his father, so his aunt. Achot imo, his aunt from his mom's side. Achot ishto, and the sister of his wife. What's the one example of the sister of your wife where you don't get killed for? Yibum, excellent. Huh? Sorry?
No, never mind, forget it.
It can be. It can be.
Oh, okay.
It can be twins. So as an example.
But I meant but then I realized that I'm sure if she died and then you take the sister, that's what this means?
No, it's not that you're taking the sister. Remember this. The person is married to one of the sisters.
Right.
Then his brother is married to the other sister.
Yeah, cheers.
We have people, by the way, in the community. Okay?
Yeah, my
Lots
my
of cases.
dad and my aunt and my mom.
What was to happen if Bar Minan, the man would pass away, okay, and he had no children from his wife? The halakha is that wife would now fall to the brother to be able to try and have an inheritor that keeps his name. That was the idea, to continue his line in the world. Okay, that was the halakha. What happens if I happen to already be married to the sister of that person? Okay, so normally you would do chalitza. Where would be a case where he'd be allowed to marry her?
No kids on
If the sister passes away, and now there's yibum, now he would marry the other sister. Okay? Anyway, ve'elachot ishto. Everyone should live a long life. Ve'eshet achiv. Okay? On the wife of his sister. Ve'eshet achiv. And on the wife of his brother. So in other words, the sister, achot ishto, the sister of his wife. Ve'eshet achiv. And the wife of his brother. Right? This is obviously not talking about in the case of Yibum. So in other words, let's say the brother did have children, and now he passes away.
No yibum.
No Yibum. Not only no Yibum, it's an adulterous relationship. Even after he dies.
Oh wow. If they get divorced, if he divorces his wife, he's not ever allowed to marry the sister-in-law? Because she already had kids from the brother?
Forget the divorce for a second. Let's say the brother, single. His brother's married to someone. Now the brother passes away. Guy wants to marry his brother's wife.
No kids. Or with kids.
No kids is Yibum.
Right, so with kids.
With kids,
He's not allowed to marry her?
not allowed to marry her. And Isur Karet.
Wow.
Then a problem with this in Mexico.
You understand that? Yeah, I've heard actually 2 cases like this.
Friend of mine.
Terrible, terrible situation. And there was one case where the guy came to Bet Din and they didn't tell the Bet Din, the rabbi was marrying them, they didn't tell them that she was previously married.
To the brother.
So they brought all the documentation proving that the woman was Jewish. They just didn't bring the ketubah that she was married to his brother once.
What's the Torah's reasoning behind that one?
She's like, just like any of the adulterous relationships. The Torah says someone who's married to your brother, Bar Minan, she passes away. You're not allowed to marry her forever. It's like the wife of your father who's not your mother. Even after the father passes away, it's still the fact that he was married to my father means she's asur to me forever. By the way, it's fascinating. One of the cases that we talk about when you have a person who passes away, a woman, what's it called, who gets separated, she doesn't know. There's a scenario the Gemara says that every man on earth will be asur to her. because she doesn't know her own relations. Now, obviously, they're very complicated cases, and not to get into them, but this was one of the cases. The guy came to the rabbi, and anyway, they're ready to do the marriage, and something happened, I don't even know what, and the rabbi wound up calling for a random question. He wound up calling, someone that he knew, and he said, this woman, she said, yeah, very nice lady, she needs a shidduch. Hazita, her husband passed away. He said, what do you mean the husband passed away? He said, yeah, this is the guy's name. The guy says, no, you're making a mistake, you're getting mixed up. That's the guy I'm marrying her to. He says, no. They went and found out the guy was trying to fool the rabbinate to marry him. I always think to myself, what is a guy like that doing? You're ready to marry someone who's arayot. You want the rabbi to marry you? If you don't care enough,
Vegas.
Go get an Elvis impersonator. All right, let's go. The guy should get a guy who does a marriage like that. You know who we should get to play the wedding? Gareth Brooks. Gareth. Okay, fine. Says the Mishnah. Val eshet achi aviv, the wife of achi aviv, his father's brother.
Why aunt again? That's aunt, wife of his father's brother.
We're identifying each individual case. In English, it's the same thing, aunt. But it's a different relation. Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah? Okay. Val eshet achi aviv. Ve'al hanida. And on a nida. This is crazy. So a lot of times people don't realize the reason why we're so strict with nida is the punishment of nida is compared to the arayot, all the other arayot. And the punishment, not only in the isur, but also in the punishment. So it's a nida needs to be taken very, very, very seriously.
What would that be considered?
Nida means that he has relations with her during the time when she's a nida, or before she's purified. Karet. This is karet. You're surprised by Malkut, but karet you like even now. Yeah.
Relations means the act of, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
7 days.
Yes.
There's a touching. There's a,
So the isurim are all of those isurim, depending on of closeness, right? But the final element is when a person has intercourse. Okay. Also, there's whole questions in the Gemara of at what point does it count as intercourse, and the Gemara brings all different elements of trying to understand what is the halakha. Fascinating thing that you could have like a whole halachic debate, of exactly at what point.
Good question. So
yeah.
let's say someone sins, right? Don't you redeem yourself kippur? So like, are you still chayav karet or no?
So that's a very good question. That's a very good question. Now, it's important to understand, and again, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but it's important to understand that there's a very interesting law that's brought down lahalakha. Rambam brings down in Chot Teshuvah called echte ve'ashuv. If a person says, you know what, I'm going to sin, and then I'll do teshuvah, he loses the chance of teshuvah working for him. Fascinating. Why would that be?
It's a sin on purpose.
Normally, teshuvah is a mechanism to bring you closer to God. But when a person says echte ve'ashuv, what are they doing? They're using teshuvah as a mechanism to create distance. Because they're allowing themselves to do the thing based on teshuvah. So what does God do? He says, for you, for this, the teshuvah doesn't work. So if a person is telling themselves, you know what, it's fine, I'll do teshuvah and kippur. Doesn't work. If a person was not thinking to themselves, I'm going to do teshuvah, but they wound up, doing a terrible mistake, there are times also people don't realize. People don't know. Can I give you a simple example? What happens if someone's wife went to the mikveh and she didn't do the mikveh properly? She didn't even realize. The balanit lady, she's getting old, she didn't see that the woman's hair didn't go under the water. She's not done mikveh. Something is a problem. Let's say you don't know there's a problem with the mikveh, the water's pasul. Why? Because something happened with the filter, something happened. A lot of different things could happen, right? Something happens. Hayav karet. But But you can't, we don't give you karet when you did it by mistake. Isur karet is only when a person has, when a person understands what they're doing.
Does that go back to where we warn the witness?
So we'll see about azara. Azara is going to be one of the topics in this chapter. Okay. Almana lekohen gadol. If a kohen gadol marries or has relations with the almana, with a widower, a regular kohen is not allowed to marry a divorcee, but is allowed to marry a widow. Okay. A kohen gadol is not allowed to marry a almana. Almana lekohen gadol, girusha v'chalutza lekohen hedyot. Okay? What happens if an almana, so one second, all of those were isurim of karet, which also get malkut. Okay? So that was the beginning of the Mishnah. The second part of the Mishnah now is, this is not karet, but this is also malkut. And if you remember, we said the only things we're going to give you is elements that are questionable. So let's see. Almana l'kohen gadol, you have almana, a widow that a kohen gadol has relations with. Girusha v'chalutza lekohen hedyot. You have a girusha, a divorcee, or chalutza, someone who, in the case of yibum, was given chalitza. So earlier, Jonah mentioned this, right? When you're supposed to you're supposed to get a chance to recreate or continue the man's legacy when he passes away with no children. So what happens if the person does not want to do yibum? He gives her chalitza. Chalitza means he releases her. Okay? So how do you release her? They take off the shoe, they spit in front of them. There's a whole procedure. But chalitza is to yibum what divorce is to kiddushin, to marriage. So a kohen is not supposed to be with a chalutza either. So if he marries a girusha, v'chalutza. Okay? Look at Rashi for 1 second. You see girusha v'chalutza? Everyone see it in the Rashi? Oh, I don't know if you have that. You're not going to have that in that one. Yeah.
Yeah, the little letters, right?
Yeah, you see girusha v'chalutza right over here.
Yeah, yeah.
No, not the tiny ones. Right over here. In Rashi. Yeah. Right about there.
Here.
Okay? Girusha v'chalutza, says Rashi, girusha vehi chalutza. And she is also a chalutza. In other words, this woman is a divorcee, but also did chalitza, also had the story of Yibum. Eno chayav alea ela mishum girusha. He only gets malkut because of the girusha. Why? Shachalutza ena kituba ela miribuya maitinan la. Chalutza doesn't say in the Torah that he's not allowed to marry chalutza. It's only something that we add in from a ribui in the Torah. The Tanya b'Kiddushin, we learn in Masechet Kiddushin, Girusha, en li ela Girusha, chalutza minayin. How do you know that a chalutza also kohen's not allowed to marry? Talmud lomar ve'isha. So we have an extra learning opportunity from the word ve'isha, which adds chalutza. So the pasuk says, if you did Girusha v'chalutza, you get malkut, but you get one. So why do we include this case? It's just a regular Isur Torah. The answer is, it's surprising that you only get one. You hear what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So again, we're gonna focus on cases over here which are surprising cases of malkut. Either because I would have thought that you shouldn't have gotten it at all, or because I would have thought that you should have gotten two and you get one, etc. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, mamzeret, what's a mamzer? Bastard. What makes a bastard? People don't understand this.
Out of wedlock.
Most people think mamzer is a child out of wedlock, because in English and in the Christian religion, that's a definition of that word, of bastard. Okay. However, in the halakha, that's not the case. Mamzer is a child that's born of an adulterous relationship. That's what a mamzer is. A child that's born out of wedlock is not a mamzer at all. Maybe it's not the highest kabod that the person could receive, that they were born out of wedlock. But it's not, they're not asur to marry. Okay? So,
Still today?
If you have relations with your sister-in-law or your aunt and there's a kid, that kid's a mamzer.
exactly, that kid's a mamzer. Okay? Says the pasuk. Or, what's the other case? So a mamzer or a nitina. What's a netina, right? That is a very interesting case. We learned in Tanakh that there were certain people that they came to Yehoshua when they were conquering Eretz Israel, and they fooled them as to who they were. So Yehoshua did not realize who they were. He accepted them into the Jewish people. They were from the 7 nations. They were supposed to be part of the war and part of enemies of the Jewish people. They were bifledged, so they dressed up. They pretended they were people. They came to convert. Yehoshua accepted them. Once Yehoshua accepted them, he was not going to go back on this acceptance, okay? And he said, okay, instead you could be the chotvei etzim, sho'avei mayim. You could become the water drawers, the wood choppers. You know what I'm saying? So those people were called natin. Why? Because they were given, like natan. That's where the word comes from. So the halakha is, since we know that a person is not allowed to marry into the Shiva Amin, the 7 nations that were in Eretz Israel at the time, because Hashem says you should not marry them because we're worried about them influencing you through marriage, raising your children on their values. So a natin is someone that Israel is not allowed to marry. Who would they be allowed to marry? They're allowed to marry specific cases in the Jewish people who have special dispensation to marry a netina. Okay? We'll see exactly what that is, hopefully in the fullness of time, but it's not really for now. Okay? So, a regular Israel who marries a mamzer or who marries a netina. The halakha is that gets malkut. Bat Yisrael lenatin, a Jewish girl that gets married to a natin. Natin is just the male version of netina. Ulemamzer. Now, why did we need to give you the male and female version of this?
Same way you need ant and ant.
No. Why? You tell me the difference.
For the male or female, because men and women have different statuses on who they can marry.
Well, I would have imagined that they don't. The Torah tells the Jewish people, don't marry a mamzer. I would have thought that's for men and women, right? So why should I need a separate thing? That's why I'm asking it here. The other relations, it's giving you another person. So in other words, it's saying your aunt, which is the sister of your father, and your aunt is the sister of your mother. Those are 2 different people. Maybe one was Esau and one was not, so I need to tell you both. But imagine I told you, you man are not allowed to marry this person. And then I told the female the same thing, you're not allowed to marry a person who has this status. It's the same thing. You didn't give me a chidush. There's no one new here, so...
It's not the same thing.
Go ahead, explain.
Well, one, it's like for instance, a man knows that he's forbidden, right? But then the woman could probably always feel like, I'm not good enough. But for the woman, it's the same thing. Like, he's forbidden to you also. So, you shouldn't feel that you're not good enough, or for whatever reason, it just doesn't work.
Let me give me one second. Let's back up for a second. Let's say a mamzer. Mamzer is a bastard child. The child is the product of an adulterous relationship. Is there any difference between if that child is male or female? No. Which means that you could have a mamzer who's a male and a female. Let's say you have mamzer and a female. Is there a difference between a man marrying a female mamzeret or a female marrying a male mamzer? No. The isur is mamzer.
Yeah, okay.
So then why in the world would the Mishnah bring me both cases if a Bat Yisrael marries mamzer v'natin or if a Yisrael marries mamzer v'natin? What difference should there be between those 2 cases? That the Mishnah felt it necessary to list the male and female. It didn't do that before. They were just expressed the various kinds of Isurim. So we're going to have to come back to this. And by the way, what you said is something we need to keep in abeyance. Okay? We'll see why. All right. So in each one of those cases, Almana ugrusha, Almana ugrusha chayavin alea mishum shne shemot. גירושה וחלוצה אינו חייב אלא משום אחת בלבד. Now the Mishnah says, when you have an almana ugrusha, right, and grusha v'chalutza, those 2 things, right, they're different in the fact that in one case you transgressed 2 different things and we obligate you for 2 different isurim. That's shnei shemot. Whereas when it comes to grusha v'chalutza, there's only isur, one commandment, one shem that you violated. Now, what's the difference between those two cases? Almana and grusha, right? It's two different things. Grusha and chalutza is one thing. Why? Why is one two things and why is one thing? What's the difference in those two cases? Yeah.
Divorcee gets divorced, no children, and the husband dies. She's divorcee and a chalitza.
Sorry?
A woman gets divorced.
Yeah.
And then the ex-husband dies. She's divorcee.
No.
Is that
You only do yibum when they were still married at that time of death.
Then what's a divorcee and a...
She marries one guy, divorcee. Marries another guy, the guy dies.
She's both.
Now she's both. Now the Kohen comes along, man number 3, wants to marry her. He's marrying a grusha and a chalutza. Okay?
The regular Kohen married her because she was almana the second time?
No, doesn't remove the status
The
of
status stays with her.
She's still a grusha.
divorcee.
Yeah. So grusha v'chalutza, he now wants to marry her. The halakha, the Mishnah says, eno chayav, he did one isur. And therefore he's meaning, literally, he's going to get 1 lashes. When it comes the other way, when we look at almana u'grusha, when we look at a widow, she's a widow and a divorcee. So in other words, she marries one guy, the guy dies. She marries a second guy, the guy that divorces her. The halakha is if the Kohen marries her, what does he get? The Kohen Gadol, excuse me.
Double
He
trouble.
can't
The
marry.
Kohen Gadol marries
He
her.
violated both.
He violates 2. The question is, why is one 2 and the other one 1? Both of them are 2. So-
because a Kohen Gadol is not allowed to marry a widow.
So Kohen Gadol who marries a woman who is both,
Let's say
he gets 2 isurim.
Let's say Kohen
2
Gadol
malkut.
married just a widow.
1.
Allowed?
Asur.
Because he's Kohen Gadol.
Kohen Gadol. So this Kohen Gadol marries someone who's forbidden to him 2 ways.
Right.
He gets 2 isurim, which means 2 malkut. Kohen now marries grusha v'chalutza. She's not allowed to marry grusha, he's not allowed to marry chalutza. She's both. He gets 1 isur. Why?
One's Kohen, one's Kohen Gadol.
Kohen, yeah, no, but Kohen is not allowed to marry grusha. He's also not allowed to marry chalutza. She's asur to him 2 ways. So how come one of them is asur 2 shemot, one of them is asur 1 shem? They both should be 2. They both should have done 2 sins. And they both should get 2 malkut. How come the Mishnah is differentiating? What's your first gut logic?
Because it's the most recent.
Chalutza,
Then both cases you would say that.
Chalutza, you don't have to marry. It's not like,
You don't have to marry her, but I am marrying her.
okay, but she
And I'm not
decided-
even, by the way, no, I'm not even her chalutza. I'm not even the guy, it's not my brother even.
I know.
Yeah, okay.
You're the Kohen.
I'm the Kohen.
Right.
This G now is an almana from one marriage, grusha, grusha from one marriage, chalutza from another marriage. Now I decide I want to marry her. There's 2 isurim. One isur in Torah is grusha, and the second is chalutza. So how come I only get 1 shem?
Gedusha is worse.
Sorry?
Maybe Gedusha is worse than
Okay.
Chalutza?
Same thing in the other one too.
Does it say Kohen's not allowed to marry a chalutza?
We just said, where did we learn it from? From the extra word Isha in the prohibition of Girusha. Come on, I just gave you the answer.
Because it specifically says divorcee. It doesn't specifically say...
One way of understanding it is that over here it doesn't specifically say this Isur, it's a limud. Good. Give me a better one. Where are we learning it from?
From divorcee.
From Girusha. So the source of the Isur of Chalutza is Girusha. So you can't hit me, it's the same category. That would be the second way. So we have 2 elements here. 2 elements that are going to make this, they're going to help us understand why in the Kohen Gadol, it's 2. Because the Kohen Gadol says you can't marry Almana, and it says you can't marry a Girusha.
But what does Chalutza emanate from Gedusha?
Because it says Ve'isha, and this woman. That extra limud, we're going to see it later on in the Gemara, that extra limud tells us that a Kohen's not allowed to marry a Grusha, and also he's not allowed to marry a Chalutza. But since it comes from there, maybe that's why the Mishnah is telling us that there's only 1 Malkut, and we're going to see this concept hopefully soon. I also thought it's a very beautiful thing. What are we calling the sin over here? The Avera. Eno chayav ela mishum, chayavin alea mishum shne shemot. 2 names. What does that mean, shne shemot?
Out of status.
Sorry?
Like not a status. It's just saying, it's not giving it a sin. It's
What does the word Shemot mean?
name.
Names. What is names? Names means the categories over here?
Labels.
Huh?
Labels.
Labels. 2 labels. Doron, what are you saying?
Labels for label.
2 people,
So that's Shemot?
man and the couple.
So again, why is it called Shemot?
The names, that means the couples.
Categories.
So categories you're saying is Shemot. There's one other interpretation that we have on this word Shemot we've seen before. The name of God, the names of God are the mitzvot that he gives in the Torah.
The names of God. Are
The name of God is the mitzvot of his Torah. So-
Positive or negative or
So think about when a person does a mitzvah or that breaks out, we talk about, what do they say? Chilul Hashem, Kiddush Hashem. So normally we associate that, we say, okay, Kiddush Hashem because I did this. Part of the Kiddush Hashem is that you profaned God's name. By transgressing God's word, what did you do? You broke his name. All of these are Shemot of the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A deeper understanding is, we shared once the Vilna Gaon, that the original writing of the Torah, before the Torah was given, the Torah exists before the world even exists. And how could that be? How's the Torah talking about Avraham Avinu and Moshe? And the Vilna Gaon explained that the Torah was rearranged into letters that spell out the various names of God, the Shemot of Hashem. Which means that at its essence, what is the Torah? The Torah is God's names. The rearrangement of those letters into the stories, into the commandments, are still therefore called Shemot. That's fantastic. But again, there's many, very deep ideas that are associated with the fact that mitzvot are called Shemot. Okay, so what time is it? Oh, we have to pick up Be'ezat Hashem next time. Okay, so we're going to continue Be'ezat Hashem next week in the second part of the Mishnah, where the Mishnah is going to continue describing the concepts of karet, the interplay between a person who has more than one punishment on his plate, the punishment of karet, the punishment of malkut, if they could coexist, which punishments don't coexist, when do you have double jeopardy, when not, all that is going to be part of this chapter of Elohen Halokin. I'm very happy we finally got to begin. Okay. Hazak Baruch.